Today we're going to start 13.2, which is slope. And so our learning goal is that I can find and interpret the slope of a line. So I'm going to check your warm-up in class the next time that I have you. All right, vocabulary. So our vocabulary, our keyword today is slope. And this is the value of the ratio of the change in y, which we call the rise. Oops. The change in x, which we call the run, between any 2 points. And we call it x1, y1, x2, y2. This is just to show that they're 2 different points. The slope of a line is measured in the steepness of the line, and we use the letter m to represent the slope. So m, like I said, we call it rise over run, which means when we're on a graph, we see how many boxes do we go up first, and then over. So like we rise up and then we run to the side to get to our next point. So actually it would look like rising up and then running over. So this is our change in our x. So we're going to subtract our 2 x's. So our change in our y's. So we subtract these 2 points. And then we subtract our 2 x's and we divide those. So to describe the slope of the line and then find each slope. So like I talked about last class, whenever our line from left to right looks like it's going upwards, like I said, we start here and we end here. So like we read, if we go from left to right, it looks like we're going like up a mountain. So this is a positive slope. So that's what's happening here. It's rising from left to right. So it's positive slope. And now let's find our slope. So there's 2 ways of doing this. If you're given a graph, you can count your boxes. So how many points do we rise? So I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so it always is y over x. So we have 6 over, sorry, not 6. We have 5 over 6 would be our slope. So m equals 5 over 6. If we didn't have a graph, but we just had 2 points, so let's say we only knew these 2 points, then we would have to solve it by subtracting our x or our y's. So remember, it's our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to show you both ways. So I'm going to label these. It doesn't matter which is what, as long as you're consistent. So my x2's both have, and my y2's have to be together. And so that would be my x1 and my y1 down here. So my y2, so my y of my second point would be 4 minus the y of my first point, so -1, which means these turn into a plus, over the x's of my first and second point. So if I started with y2 up here, then that means that right below it also needs to be my x2. They have to go hand in hand. So this would be 3 minus -3. And so minus negative, we're going to add those. And so we get 5 over 6, which is what we had when we used our graph. So that means to get from one point on the line to the next point on the line, you go up 5 boxes and over 6. All right, I want you to pause the video and try B on your own, and then check your answer with mine. All right, so when we look at this line from left to right, so from left to right, we see that the graph is falling, and so that is telling us that we have a negative slope. So now I'm going to look at my 2 points. So I labeled them y2, or x2, y2, and x1, y1. And I used the formula to find our slope. So this is how we find slope. And so 1 minus negative 2 is our y. So 1 minus negative 2 gave me positive 3. And negative 1 minus 1 gives me a negative 2. So my slope is 3 over negative 2, which can be written as negative 3 over 2 or negative 3 on top and then 2 on bottom. All of those 3 ways are the exact same. In the graph, so if we were lucky enough to actually have a graph, you can see that to get from this point to this point, I have to fall, not rise. I'm falling 3, so I showed that I went negative 3, and then I ran 2. So when you fall, your line's negative, so you have to make sure that you include that negative. So it doesn't matter which method you use. You'll still get a negative 3 over 2. If you are not given a graph, though, you're going to have to go with the formula. All right. So we're going to find the slope of each line. So first, let's talk, do we rise? I don't rise any to get to my next one. I just run. So I run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So remember, it's rise over run. I didn't rise any, but I ran 7, which would just be 0, because 0 divided by 7 is just 0. So my slope, which we use an m to say slope, is 0. Over here, I rise 1, 2, 3, 4, but I don't run any. So rise over run. So I rise 4. I don't run over any direction. So this is undefined because we can't divide by 0. So to kind of give you an idea, this is kind of like a little cheat sheet. Positive, it's going to rise when we look at it from left to right. It goes upwards. From left to right, it goes downwards, it's negative. If it goes horizontal, it's 0, and up and down is undefined. So we're going to look at parallel lines, and we're going to find the slope of each line and then see if they're parallel. So parallel lines mean that the two lines have the same slope, which means they'll never meet, or they're never going to cross each other. So let's look and see if these lines have the same slope. It's asking us to use the equation to do this. So that's what we're going to do. We're not going to count. We're just going to do the equation because we need to practice. So I'm going to label x2 and y2, x1, y1. So I have 2 minus negative 2, which means I'm going to add them, over negative 3 minus, my pen is not, negative 4, which means I'm going to add those. And this gives me 4 over -1. Nope, sorry, 4 over +1. So my slope is 4. And actually, I want you to keep it over 1 because this is reminding us that we have to run 1. So we go up 4 over 1. All right, next line. I'm going to label my x2, y2, x1, y1. And I want you to check your answers with mine once you finish the red line and the green line. All right, so you will notice after finding the slope of the red and the green line, using the equations, I got 5 over 1 and 4 over 1. And we can actually check both of those slopes because we are given a graph. And so when looking at the graph, I go up 5 over 1. So that one is 5 over 1. And over here, I go up 4 over 1. So this one is 4 over 1. And so since this one is 5 over 1 and the other two are 4 over 1, this one is actually not parallel. It has a different slope than the other two. Since these two are the same slope and have the same slope, these two, these are parallel. And that means that those two lines will never cross paths, while eventually the red one will because it's not parallel with them. All right, so for the word problem, I kind of helped you set it up. They didn't give you a graph, and so you had to take the points from the table and write them as points, and then determine which one you want to be your x1, y1, y2. You could have used any of the 4 points, it doesn't matter because they're all on the line, and then set it up using our equation. So I want you to solve this answer, and I'm going to check this in class next time I have you.